This past weekend saw Berkshire Hathaway CEO Warren Buffett hold the 2025 Investor Annual Summit. And while this is probably all over your feed, I want to make this quick and just update you on some of the most relevant information that I have noted after watching the summit. So, first of all, I just want to mention, especially for some of the younger viewers, why Warren Buffett is one of the GOATs. Specifically, this past year, since the beginning of 2025, we've seen a lot of billionaires lose a lot of their holdings simply because they're mainly vested in their own companies, which tend to usually be tech. And Buffett was one of the major people out of the richest billionaires who has actually managed to increase his net worth. And this is something particularly exemplary about him because he removed himself from holding securities, meaning stocks, and instead just held on cash, which he called in typical investor talk, I'm increasing my cash position, which sounds really nice and everything. But I just want to start with how he thanked Apple CEO Tim Cook. Now, Buffett and Berkshire had purchased Apple stock in around 2016. So when it was roughly $24, $27 per share. Now, right now, it is at almost 10 times that. So, 1,000% increase. And he opened the meeting by asking Tim Cook to stand up and saying, I'm a little embarrassed, but Tim Cook has made Berkshire Hathaway more money than I could have ever dreamed. Just meaning how that Apple increased its value so much. Now, one other thing that I want to point out that isn't necessarily regarding the summit is how for the Max 7, Apple has been a little underperforming. And that's something I've pointed out. I'm struggling to find ways in which this business could grow, especially when it comes to uh, tech competency. Simply because they seem to be at this point more of a design company. They're not necessarily innovating, they're improving, of course, but when it comes to actual innovation, I think they're lagging behind. I think that at least for things like smartphones and wearable devices such as the Apple Watch, I don't really see much evolution coming out of that. Now, for other devices such as laptops and desktops, they still have a solid chunk of the market, but not necessarily because of, I think, technological supremacy, but rather because it's easy for people to uh, keep on using Mac OS. Besides that, Buffett holds 300 billion in cash right now, or sorry, Berkshire. And uh this is probably because he sensed that some political headwinds would cause markets to plummet and yeah, issues to arise due to that. Which honestly was the smart move as always. And this kind of goes hand in hand with his position that one should simply not necessarily beat the market the whole time, also not lose as much. Just being average for a long time does the trick. is what he believes in. One other thing that I find really funny, one of his comments, and one that I'm also linking in the notes below, is that he said, and I quote, if it had gone up 15%, speaking of the market, instead of down 15%, people take that with remarkable grace. So, yeah, just a wonderful quote because once markets fall 15%, all hell breaks loose. But when it goes up, people tend to say, well, okay, I clearly made the smart decisions. This is because I somehow knew what the correct choices were. And he just is highlighting how markets have a lot of different factors to consider. And I mean, currently it's mainly been geopolitical political issues and how people hate feeling wrong but love to think that they are right. Just let that sit for a minute. Losing 15%, it's someone else's fault. Gaining 15%, that's because I made the great choices that I do. So, just let that sit for a second. Okay, and now I want to talk about a Mongolian Berkshire Hathaway stockholder. By the way, let me just show you. But this Mongolian um, stockholder, shareholder, he asked, well, how is Mongolia, an emerging market like Mongolia, going to perform in the near future? And Buffett was already talking about how he's scared about runaway inflation, meaning uncontrolled inflation, not the increased rates of inflation that the U.S. has been seeing, but rather an almost triple-digit year-on-year inflation, such as prices increasing by 150% from December 2024 to let's say December 2025. Um, so he is specifically worried about countries such as Mongolia that are developing, not major centers of economic activity, not being able to take care of their currency well. And he was saying that also people have not come up with a system of government that doesn't debase its own currency, meaning that uh, every single government will debase its currency as time goes on. It can be mixing more silver with gold, such as in the Roman Empire. It can simply be printing more money and therefore increasing the money supply, meaning that the money that you hold in your own pockets is now worth less than before all of the printing started. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. I come from a place where runaway inflation has it just damaged the economy to an insane extent. So I definitely understand his fear regarding this. Now he also is wary about the American trade deficit, just like the current president. However, he does not necessarily think that tariffs are the best way of going about it. Um, and he doesn't fully discuss that too much, simply because this is a Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting. And Berkshire Hathaway is mainly dabbling in insurance and other types of investments. So he didn't really focus too much on that. However, he did mention that being born in the US is just incredible. And as I have just pulled up on the screen, a GDP in relative percentage terms, you can see how the US has been doing very well, and China is, of course, picking up, has been pretty much since 1995. But it is worth noting that he basically said, "Who would have bet on the USA 250 years ago?" Uh, and yeah, I mean that is true. The U.S. was an agrarian society about 100 years ago. Now it is, I'd say, the main center of innovation. It is slowly losing that role to China, uh, but yet it has advanced quite rapidly. And he again said, just like in investing, he said that you have to be better than the other guy for a longer amount of time. So again, this is similar to investing in the sense that it's all about time. When it comes to investing, you can go for the explosive, flashy stocks, and they also tend to come down just as hard. So it is important to strike a balance between having your capital work for you, but also having it in safe securities. So, for example, not having it in scams, right? I mean, when it comes to scams, it is a pretty general overview, but what comes to mind is Bitcoin versus Ethereum. Ether has lost quite a bit of its value, and it's just been struggling, even though it's one of the two legit cryptocurrencies in a sense. However, Bitcoin has maintained its value. It's been going through extreme hype cycles, but nevertheless, it's kept its value. And when it comes to stocks like, for example, Tesla, that might be more of a hype stock versus companies like Coca Cola. Uh, they're just the silent giants that you don't think about, but when you get food, you could probably order a Coke with it. So I think what he's trying to say there, when it also comes to the investor's mentality, is to lose less. It's not about winning more, it's about losing less. I think that that is the overarching idea. And please feel free to discuss further in the comments, by all means. Now, one of the other really interesting things has been Geico. A question about Geico and self driving cars, because Berkshire Hathaway owns Geico. Geico provides car insurance. And someone asked them about, well, what happens to Geico when self driving cars take over. And I coincidentally happened to be living next to a self driving car parking lot slash charging station. So I definitely do have some experience with it. I also take these Waymo vehicles around. And they were saying, mainly talking about how once one of these self driving cars is damaged, and it is on the screen right now. I just want you to focus on all of the components that you don't see in a normal car. For example, the side cameras, the LiDAR on top, and all of the other cameras as well. A lot of tech goes into this, and it's not just a computational part, not just the brain that allows it to self drive, but specifically the data flow, right? So the video, the LiDAR, so every single sensory input that the vehicle gets to then turn into its decision making, pretty much like biological beings, those are extra costs. and taking care of those is expensive, especially if a car uh, gets into an accident. So what they were saying is that sure, these cars might be safer, but they will still need insurance when it comes to maintenance. Now, I don't know how much I believe in that, but it was a semi compelling argument. Let's just put it that way. I'm still not, fully sold on it, but I do see how if these cars, if for example Google, which is Waymo's owner, uh, were to insure them, that they would probably be paying a higher premium. Now, okay, and then one of the other things he mentioned was nuclear proliferation. As you can see, there are, he mentioned 8 to 9 nuclear states that can incredibly harm the way that the Earth continues developing and how the planetary economy keeps on developing. He specifically, of course, cited how he at least alluded to a nuclear war, out an outright nuclear war, destroying the global economy. And as you can see here, that's French Guyana, France again here, the U.S., so Alaska, Hawaii, and then the continental U.S., the U.K., Russia, that's Kaliningrad right there, but Russia and China uh, being some of the older nuclear powers, and then Pakistan and India, of course, North Korea also being nuclear states. Um, Now, Germany, the Netherlands, Belarus, Turkey, Italy, they hold some um, nuclear warheads for both Russia as well as the US. Um, but he was specifically giving the example of, well, there's this one guy in North Korea who, who knows what he'd do if you criticize his haircut. Obviously, talking about North Korean leader Kim Jong Un. But this is something else that he specifically mentioned, which we should, I guess, all be scared of nuclear war and the potential of that. But at the same time, I think if it happens, then we'd all be affected. We'd all be miserable, and at that point, maybe we don't really have to think about much else, right? Just survival. So, c'est la vie. And okay, now this is the part that I'm interested in. So we're right now looking at Berkshire Hathaway's Class A shares. They are $809,000 right now. They're on their way to a million, definitely. I would love to be able to buy a share. What you're seeing right now is the Robinhood interface. I would absolutely love to be able to buy that share. I, however, cannot. I did purchase a share of BRK.B, so the Class B shares. They're the non-voting shares. For around 500 something. What did I buy it for? Oh, okay. I am unable to find that. I think I bought it at oh, right here for $504. Now, Warren Buffett also announced that he would be retiring, and this garnered a lot of applause. He is 94 right now. He's had a very long career. What he partially keeps on saying is how he made most of his money after he turned 60, which, uh, yeah, that is how compounding interest works. but it still is incredible how long of a career he's had and how also mentally bright and sharp he still is. He doesn't forget too much. He seems physically well and mentally extremely sharp still. Uh, so this man definitely knows something that we don't. Um, but after he said that he would be retiring, shares rose by 176 sorry 1.76%, so 176 basis points uh just today, and 0.4% after hours. So these news are taken with quite some grace and some love as well. I mean, this man just loves the game. Even when I was talking about Waymo or self-driving cars in Geico earlier, he was mentioning about how changes like that, changes in technology, changes in geopolitics, those types of changes keep the game interesting. So he quite literally looks at investing as a game, and I love that for him. He is a pretty also humble person, and he has done what he has done extremely well. Um, so yeah, I'd say that this is a good quick summary and recap of the 2025 Berkshire Hathaway Investor Summit. And I will link everything that I used to prepare this video in the description. Thank you very much for listening.